You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Well, hello, Mama friends, and welcome back to another incredible episode of the Mama Work It podcast. As always, it's me, your host, your mama friend, Marissa Lonick, founder of the Mama Work It brand, where we support women in the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. And I could not be more excited to welcome our guest today, mostly because this is someone I know, trust, and love, and has been part of my life for over 10 years now. So she is a former colleague turned friend, turned biz bestie, turned my personal astrologer. And I am just thrilled to have her on the show today. Now, if you've been around for a while, like I'm talking way back in the early Mama Work It days, you may remember this guest and I actually collaborated on a live event we did locally here in California called Planning with the Planets. Because if you are a planner out there, and what mom isn't, you got to plan some things or most things, and they just don't happen. So what an incredible tool astrology can be when it comes to leveling up your planning. So it's been a resource for me ever since Crystal gave me my first taste of an astrological reading years and years and years ago. And it continues to be something I tap into regularly as a planning resource. And I hope you find it just as beneficial, especially after learning a little bit more about how powerful the stars and the planets can really be in setting intentions, executing goals, and making big decisions. So let me give you a quick intro about this amazing woman, and then we'll dive into it all. Crystal B is a globally recognized astrologer and author who works with prominent corporations and universities, including Harvard, Barnard, Columbia, and Emerson College. She has been featured on New York Live, WNBC, as a New Jersey astrotherapist. Crystal's book, Feed Your Moon, Predictive and Mindful Astrology, One Phase at a Time, is available worldwide. She also publishes an annual forecast guide. Crystal is a mentor running several memberships for students of astrology. She is a retreat leader, co-facilitating spiritual and transformative experiences. And she is also a pioneer now in bringing astrology into the corporate space. She runs team building workshops, helping to engage managers and employers with their cosmic superpowers. Woo! I know that was a mouthful, but oh my God, Crystal, so happy you're finally here on the show.
Thank you so much, Marissa. When I hear all the things that I do, I'm like, man, this girl is busy.
All right, but you're doing it in such a good way because you're utilizing your astrological gifts to help you plan most effectively. So I can't wait to dive into all this stuff. But before we do, and I know I just told everyone a bit about you, and we go way back, so I know all about you. But for our listeners who maybe have not heard of you, or this is their first taste of Crystal B, tell us just a little bit more about you and your journey and how you became an astrologer.
So, the fact is that I grew up with astrology. My dad also practices astrology, and I never read a horoscope. My dad always had my chart handy, and it was something that all of my family knew that he did, and it was a legitimate place to go when there were questions in our lives. Where is the stress coming from? What direction do I go in? My dad was always there with my chart. And I never grew up with horoscopes. I know that today it's more popularized for us to think about like our big three, our sun sign, our rising sign, our moon sign. But I never thought about myself as just one sign, which I'm a Pisces, by the way. But I never really thought about myself in just that one capacity because my dad was always there with my chart. So, I grew up like that, and I never really thought of myself as an astrologer. I have to be honest. My dad was the weird guy. He never really was able to do it as a business. He did it for friends and for family, and he was always the go-to person to call up at like these life crossroads. So I saw that growing up. But I didn't really think in my mind that this was going to be a legitimate business because I didn't, honestly, Marissa, I didn't want to be weird. I wanted to be a lawyer, or I wanted to be a business person, or I have that part of me that like is like, I kind of like the rules in some ways. But fast forward to me having my daughter was, and again, I always used astrology with checking in with my dad, but again, never a viable business option for me. I went to college. I have my bachelor's in business. I worked in end user training. I did a lot of development with computers, and then I worked with you in corporate America doing training. Um, but what happened was when I had my daughter, she had a lot of health problems. And any mother, and you know, because you are talking to so many mothers, when your baby, especially your first baby, has any sort of difficulty, we're desperate. And my daughter had a lot of health problems when she was a baby, and she had a lot of seizures. And so, seizures and any sort of illness for our children is very debilitating. You have nowhere to run. You all you want is hope. And my dad gave that to me in that period. And we had the most amazing conversations where he's like, she's going to make it. She's going to be fine. And I am a fighter. I am also a feisty person in that I didn't want to take no and some diagnoses that were coming down the line for her. So, with my dad's help, I created a system, which I still use today, to help me find out when me and my daughter's good days were and when me and my daughter's bad days were going to be. And as a mother going through a sick child, like this was very helpful, especially when you have a child having seizures. Like you want to be not out in the public. But it was a roadmap for me, and it gave me. I'm not saying it took away my problems because it certainly didn't, but it gave me hope that I'm going to get through this. It gave me hope that my daughter was going to get through it, and it also gave me a roadmap to navigate the difficulty of where I was. And fast forward, she got better. Um, but I found my gifts, and it was a really dark place to find my gifts, but I got a bug, and I got uh, really into it. And so I started to do what my dad did. I helped friends, I helped family, I developed my own voice, which was different than my dad's. And it just I began to get really popular with my family and friends. And eventually what happened is my husband is like, you got to stop giving it away. You got to get serious here. And so my real name is Crystal Bichalski. That's my married name. And so, we were like, what am I going to call myself? And he's like, what about Crystal B? And so it's funny because everybody thinks that that comes from crystal ball, but really it's my real name and my last initial. So and then I just grew from there. And I still, as you know, like I did not just, it wasn't like I'm just going to jump into the astrological world and become a superstar. Like that didn't happen at all. I operated in secret. It was still very weird to me. I was not comfortable with telling people what I did. I needed to have a part of my existence that was quote unquote normal. And I also needed to make money because I didn't jump out of the gate, making a lot of money doing astrology either. And what I want people to understand is that astrology right now is very popularized and very a lot of people are very open-minded to it, which I love to see, but that wasn't the way it was when I came in. And, I had to really fight my way to proving that it's a science because, yes, there is definitely gifts and intuition and all of that beautiful stuff that comes in when you exercise this. But I really lean into the science part, which is how the planets are moving, which they are in the skies, and how they're affecting us below. And as above, so below. But I'm very scientific. I always tell people I'm a wacky scientist. Um, but it took me a long time to prove my credibility, to prove like it's not like you can just see people, and sometimes I would wait a year and they'd be like, "Oh my god," like, and Marissa, you've seen that magic happen. Even you, when I first met you, there was skepticism, but I have embraced skepticism because I'm a skeptic myself. And all I say to people is like, give it a shot. Let me prove it. You know what I mean? And I've been super patient to wait. And eventually what happened was, I was scared to take the leap to leave that part of my life that was, you know, paycheck. I had a paycheck. I was in quote unquote normal, but I took the leap, and when I did that, my world just exploded with astrology. Like, even when you say my introduction, like it, I can't believe I have done, but that's because I'm truly passionate about the planets. I love them. I use them in my own life. And I love to share them with people. And I think all of my success is just because I've leaned into doing something that I truly am passionate about.
Oh my God, Crystal. I mean, I've heard this story before, probably
Yeah.
more than once. And every time you say it, I just get like full body chills because it really is the path you're meant to be on. And unfortunately, you did have to go through sort of that dark period, as you mentioned, to get there and kind of overcome some real obstacles. But those obstacles are ultimately what got you
Yeah.
there. I don't know. And I think you probably maybe wouldn't have necessarily leaned into this part of yourself if you
No.
didn't have to during that period.
Because I wanted
Yeah.
to be quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get it. All right. Well, for someone totally new to the astro world or a skeptic out there, I know you and I, we're hard sells. We can be
Totally get it.
skeptics, and yet we're full on committed to this now. Like we've seen the results in this. Give us a little insight. Just, you're very science based, as you said, how astrology can be such a powerful and useful tool when it comes to planning ahead.
So I love this question because I use this in my own life and I use it when I talk to people on many different levels. So again, as above, so below. The planets are constantly moving and they are affecting us. And how we can gauge how they're affecting us is by the roadmap that we were born with, which is called our astrology chart, our natal chart. And this is the picture that never changes. It's what really defines who we are, our personality and our strengths, our weaknesses, our areas of development in our lifetime. And there's so many different ways to use astrology. Like, you can use it for that personality component, which is where I'm talking about it with corporations. But you can also use it for looking at how the moving planets are moving and how they're activating certain parts of our map. And we all know we have certain periods of our life where they're stagnant and certain periods of our life where there's a lot happening, where we're comfortable, where we're not comfortable. The planets define all of that. And I write forecasts all the time. I've just been going through a whole slew of my talking about my 2024 guide, which talks about the year as it presents via the planets. And so what I always tell people, and if you're just reading a regular horoscope or a guide or something like that, you should be aware of not only your sun sign, but of your rising sign, which is the sign that was rising over the horizon when you were born. And also your moon sign, which is how your emotions are. And I'm very big with emotions. A lot of people call me an astrotherapist. I'm not a traditional therapist. I'm an astrotherapist because I use the planets. But the moon is my girl. And Marissa, you know this because my book, Feed Your Moon, Marissa, you were one of my beautiful guinea pigs that allowed me to use as a story as I followed what I call the skins that you're in, because there's the methodology to look at how the moving planets are affecting us on a day to day basis, which is great. But I have to be honest with you, I live and I breathe this work, and I'm not getting caught up with the day to day. I like to take a step back and I like to think about what's my big picture. And so my book, Feed Your Moon, it really starts talking about your emotions because no matter whether you're having a good day or a bad day, like you got to feed that moon of yours. But that moon is the beginning point of what I call the skins we go through. And we go through different phases, or the skins, as I call it, every approximately 2.3 years. And Marissa, how many, I mean, we've been following many, many skin shifts together.
We have.
We've seen it,
On
and
point. On
and I
point.
think you too, like, I know we both like the dates, the power dates, like, absolutely. But I like the big picture, and I like to just take a step back and think to myself, okay, what skin am I in? And the skins go through all 12 signs of the zodiac. So as I said, I'm a Pisces, but right now I'm in a Leo skin, and I'm actually going to be heading into a Virgo skin. So I think about this in my own planning with my business. I think about this with my planning with my family. I think about this because I have leaned into the all the traits of Leo for the last few years, but I'm shifting, I'm changing, and I need to start thinking more Virgo now. And I do that. I do that not only for myself, but for my clients, my friends. And it really helps to think about the big picture because I also remember I really believe in mindfulness and being present, because I know a lot of people want to talk to me about the future, but we really have to honor the present, and we have to honor the past too. And the skin discussion, like where I am in that 2.3 year cycle, it really kind of helps me gauge. So, I always, Marissa, whatever question you ask me, I'm always going to have a long winded answer because that's just the way astrology is. But I like to use astrology for all those different, ways. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, and it does. And I love the fact too about your book. It's not like a single read.
No, no.
Right? It's not like you read it once and you're like, okay, cool. I learned a lot of things. Like you can do that. But this is almost like a reference
Yes.
guide that you go back to often and frequently. I know that's the way it's been
Yeah.
for me. As I transition into different
Yes.
skins and seasons, I'll go now and research and study and learn about this skin versus that skin. I'll think, does that make sense for me right now? Or is this where I'm headed? And how's that going to play up into what my goals are and what I'm thinking about for the year ahead or the next 2 5 years ahead or whatever it is, you know? So I love that aspect of the book too. So it seems like from what you've told us so far, really you've utilized astrology for big picture
Yes.
planning, right? With these skins and these different changes that happen every 2.3 years or so, but also for those day to day when you were in that situation with your daughter and trying to get some predictability in how her condition was going to be, Monday versus Thursday, and kind of planning
Yeah,
your week.
absolutely. And I also just want to go back for a minute because when I published Feed Your Moon, I specifically wanted it to be a hardcover. And the reason for that is because, and it's still a hardcover, I still haven't released a soft cover yet. And the reason for that is because I wanted it to be a reference book for life. And growing up with astrology, I have read so many books. My dad gave me all his books, so I'm really blessed to have so many old ancient books. But like I also, in all of my work, I have to write a lot. Like I write a lot of forecasts, but they expire. Like every year I have to write it. My forecast this year is 250 pages, but like it will expire. And I also wanted my book to never expire and it won't. So like, um, I just wanted to say that because the hardcover and the fact that it's a referenceable item is so that was a part of I really wanted to portray that to the world, like something that will never expire and that you could always reference as you age.
Yeah, it's the encyclopedia, guys.
Yes. That's what I want. That was my vision.
There you go. You hit it. Totally. So, what are some really simple ways for someone to get started if they wanted to level up their planning and then start incorporating astrology into that? What could they do?
So, again, the first thing, very simplistic for all my astroversions out there, and I talk to plenty of astroversions. Like it takes a long time to learn about all the dynamics of astrology. You really should know that there's much more to you than one sign. So go to a free chart generator. You can go to my website, crystalbiastrology.com. But you don't have to just go to my website. You could just type in Google like free astrology chart generator.
But we will have her
And
website in the show notes. So, super simple. Just hit her website.
um but you can you and you need your birth time. Like the planets change position every 2 minutes, very subtly, but they do change. And your birth time depicts the sign that was rising over the horizon when you were born, as in addition to where you were born, the city, the state, the city, the country. And I know some people don't have access to their birth time. If you can go the extra mile to get your birth time, you'll be able to find out what your rising sign is, the sign what I call on your front door. If you don't, it's still okay. You could still plug in your information that you know, and at least get more information about what your moon is, your moon sign. Because I really love to think about those big three, which a lot of people are talking about today. It's the sun, it's the rising, and it's the moon. And then as we want to get more details, like how we communicate, we're going to look at our Mercury sign. How we socialize, we're going to look at our Venus sign. How we love, and how we react, which is our Mars sign. And those are Mercury, Venus, Mars. These are planets that I look at a lot with like my corporate team building or group team building, because these are all things that we show up with a group and in a group setting. But from your own personal awareness, to know about these different archetypes and how they're operating in your astrology gets you more in tune with who you really are and what you're really showing up with. But from a very early beginning standpoint, you should at least know that there's more to you than just your sun.
Yeah, totally. So tell us a little bit more. You've mentioned this a couple times. You're kind of pioneering this new astrological approach in the corporate space. How specifically can astrology help companies, teams? Like, why marry these two worlds?
So the fact is that we all need a way to understand each other, right? And when we show up at work, or any group, just think about a sports team or any sort of group activity, we're showing up with our personality, right? And all the pieces that make us who we are. And we're naturally going to really connect with some people really easily and, kind of detract from others in some capacity. But we have to work together. We need to work together for a common goal, right? So, and there's been so many different systems of personality testing through the years in corporations, right? Like the Myers-Briggs and other Enneagram, I think was big too. But the fact is that the world is changing, and bringing astrology, which is so popular today, into the workplace, which a lot of people are talking about anyway. And I get it. Like there's all different types that are in the workplace, but more people are talking about it in the workplace than not, at least a few people. And it's a system that can really explain not only who we are, but how and why we're interacting with other people. And it can really explain, and I believe when you show up to the workplace, you're bringing your it's not just your son that you're bringing your front door, like how people are first presenting to you. But when you work with somebody for 40 hours a week, or right around there somewhere, somewhere around there, they're seeing a lot more that's behind that front door. They're seeing how you react, they're seeing how you think, they're seeing how you socialize. So this is where we can really start to see these things in ourselves and our coworkers, and how we can, work together better and understand each other. Because I really believe so much of understanding about working together is understanding like how somebody operates. Like some of us are slow reactors, and some of us are like real hot to get, to react. Some of us are, like we're really we want to socialize. We're social butterflies, and some of us are not. I think from a managerial perspective, like it's so great to understand your team and what their superpowers are. I call it superpowers. And also like respecting them, because everybody has something unique. But the fact is that we need all of the superpowers of the zodiac in order to really accomplish our goals. It's not like we're not all going to do it by being social butterflies. Like we need the social butterflies, and we need the people behind the scenes too. It's really fun, cool to see it in a circle, which the zodiac is. It's a big wheel. And like who's filling in the gaps and who's not, and how you can kind of work together. It's just there's so many flashbulb moments in the assessment of it all.
Well, and I also love the fact too that, I mean, of course, there's things you can notice about people's personality and working with them 40 hours a week. You're going to get to know them on a pretty intimate level in that way. Like some
Yeah,
people are closest with their work friends than people outside of work, because we just have so much
so true.
interaction with them on such a frequent basis. But I also feel like this takes it such a step in a new and different and deeper direction, because those assessments cover one aspect, right? And there's nothing again. I love a good personality assessment. Like I'm always telling people out there to be like, go get to know yourself, get to know your teams. Like
Yeah.
that is so important. And I also can appreciate the fact that on the astrological level, it's sort of ever changing. And it's not like you're not changing and on your own growth journey personality wise, but also like there's a why as to why some of this maybe makes more sense to you. Like, oh, I'm in this skin versus that skin.
Yes.
Or so I love that understanding and sort of that depth. And I also love the fact that I would imagine this brings another level of empathy and understanding,
Yes.
because you're really capturing this knowledge in what I imagine you're training in these workshops. And so now instead of, this person thinking this person's just rude and annoying, they're like, oh, I get it. I get it. I get their astrological makeup a little more now, and makes sense,
Yeah.
you know?
There's a true empathy and a true appreciation for how we're all showing up.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Like something that is a really great discussion with groups, and they find it fascinating all the time, is the skin that they're in.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to sit next to your coworker or across from your coworker and see what skin you're in together. You know what I mean? Obviously you're not in the same trajectory, but it you do understand each other, and you talk about personal stories sometimes, and it really relates, and it also kind of gauges what you want professionally too. Like the skins are, again, we're all showing up for work. Like we have to make a paycheck. So no matter what skin you're in, you're still, going to show up. But there are going to naturally be times where we want more, where we want the limelight, or or we're focused on our family. And I know that managers understand that too. Like we all are changing. And so I don't like to talk about the future in my corporate discussions. I like to talk about the skins, because I like the big picture. And I think it's really relevant to like where we're focused in that period of time.
Yeah. Totally. All right. Well, we're switching gears. Are you ready? We're changing
I'm ready.
skins on the show.
I'm ready. I'm all about the
We
changeability.
operate on a 30-minute cycle here, not 2.3 years. So we're going into our lightning round. We're going to ask you some random, just for fun questions, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more personally. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Tell us, Crystal B, what is your guilty pleasure TV show?
So my guilty pleasure TV show right now is 6 Feet Under. I've been really kind of binging on that.
Okay, yeah. I actually haven't seen it, so I have no comment, but that sounds
It's
cool.
on Netflix. It's older, but it's so good. It's about a family that owns a funeral home.
Okay, oldie but goodie. Okay.
Yes.
What if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life? What would it be? Calories don't count.
Calories don't count. Okay, so the one food that I would eat, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I really love spinach. And I know that sounds so strange, but I'm really such a spinach person. Spinach with feta cheese, okay? We'll add the calories in.
It's so funny that you said that because I knew you were going to say that. Like, I think we used to have some sort of team building or something we would have done back in the day when we worked in the corporate world. And I vividly remember you giving this answer. And I was like, damn, she must really love spinach if that's what she picked. And she's standing by it like 10 years later, guys. Like, this is a legit, authentic person here. Okay. All right. Next question. What if you could go on vacation anywhere in the world? Where would it be and why?
Maui. I love Maui. I've done retreats there, and it is just my magic place. Whenever I go there, it just changes and shifts my energy. And I am going back there in April, so that's my place.
Awesome. Okay. And finally, what's something most people don't know about you?
So something that most people don't know about me. Okay. This is I'm gonna think about. So something that most people don't see, that's the thing about me. I'm always asking people about them. They don't really know too much about me. I think what I want to say is that I sometimes like to shut off, meaning like I think so much about life and about, planning and all sorts of, all the things that go with all these hard questions in life. But there are times in my life where I just want to shut off and just kind of be in the moment and in the day and embrace that very still moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It does. All right, Crystal. Well, before we officially wrap up, tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can get, is it the chart you were saying you can get on your website?
The free astrology calculator. Yes. So you can go to my website, Crystal B, and it's spelled regular Crystal, Crystal, B as in boy, astrology.com. So you can get my free astrology calculator. You can go and check out a forecast. You can see my guide. You could read more about my team building. You can follow me on Instagram at crystalbastrology or just at crystalbastrology. But those are the places to find me. I'm always sharing lots of different tidbits about, what's going on in the skies. So it's fun just to like check in and see what's going on out there.
Well, thank you so much, Crystal, for being a guest, for sharing all this awesome astrology stuff with us, for introducing our listeners, if they're new to this world, to the astral world. We just so appreciate you.
Thank you, Marissa, for having me. It's just an awesome way to kick off my 2024. So thank you.
You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.